Wetzel is not for everyone. For instance, sane people who can easily tell right from wrong or strongly urge to change the channel. Doctors Radio declared listening to Scott Wetzel can be hazardous to your health and can cause sickness, strokes, or wanting to take long walks on short piers. Feelings of agitation, dizziness, depression, frustration, and cold sweats are common when listening to Scott. You can have a bad reaction, such as confusion, redness in the face, teeth clenching, fist pounding, wanting to put a fork in your eye, and feeling the need to throw your radio out the window. Listeners have also reported increased swearing, trouble sleeping, and a strong desire to gamble. Truckers and drivers are urged to stay away. Learn from Jack from Arkansas. As for women, don't even think about it.
Oh no, my nipples clearly got erect.
You've been warned. Now, here's your host, Scott Wetzel.
And welcome to the Scott Wetzel Show on this fabulous Football Friday right here on FanStream Sports. Yes, the first official Football Friday, as we do have football, preseason football. Yours truly sitting in for the next 2 hours or so, taking a look at the world of sports, including the NFL, a little MLB, a little WNBA, a whole lot of college football, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You want to send a tweet, it is at Opposite Picks. That is OPPOSITE, Picks, P-I-C-K-S. Email me, go to the website, oppositepicks.com, hit the contact Scott icon and fire away, or swoppositepicks@yahoo.com. Little YouTube chat as well, up and running on our Scott Wetzel YouTube channel. Logging on, feel free, hit that like and subscribe button, and we can converse back and forth as the guys like to do throughout the program, which is always a beautiful thing. Yes, what's going on, LLs, loyal listeners, LWs, loyal watchers? How are you on this fabulous, yes, Football Friday? A little preseason football, and boy, did we hit a home run or what last night? You know, we didn't necessarily go over the picks again yesterday, like we probably should have, but we gave out the picks on Wednesday. And if you followed our trend system, man, a home run after home run after home run, we'll get to that. We got 3 more games later on tonight. Then we got the 5 or 6, whatever it is, on Saturday is the NFL preseason is fully underway. And actually, you know, you can learn a lot. You really can. I know the play is bad sometimes, and you are watching players for the most part you aren't going to see in the NFL this upcoming season. You know, around the quarterback and running back and everyone else. But you can still learn something. And boy, did we learn something last night. We got the absolute lock of the decade coming up here in the next few moments, because there is just no way this is not going to happen after watching last night's play. So we got Red Sox winning again, preseason, little review and preview for tonight's game. Beating the boys in Vegas in the NFL. Our lock of the decade. Number 5 at LSU is still the number 1 issue. Mendoza can't outdo being a Las Vegas Raider. Field of Dreams game. Who knew? More college football over and under win total team plays. And what's going on with Cal Raleigh? We'll get to all those stories. Plus, we got Marc Lawrence coming up at 3 o'clock Eastern time in about an hour or so. We'll do some college football, a little NFL with him. We got a good buddy, Colby Dant. Do some college football over-under and future totals with him. No one knows college football like Colby does at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. College Experience Podcast is his home. Marc Lawrence, it's playbooksports.com. So busy Friday. Guests are in the second hour. It's basically just you and me in this first hour. We'll start with the NFL. Because last night we had a number of games, and we gave these out on Wednesday, you know, because we didn't know what was going to go on yesterday. So I hope you cashed in. But we gave you a bunch of trends that we said we were going to play religiously. Let's give it a try, right? And it meant a whole lot of plays, but that's okay. We'll take the risk. So we started off with the over-unders, and we told you the magic number was 37. If the number is 37 or lower, then you bet over in the game. And if it's 37.5 or higher, then you bet the under in the game. So you got to crisscross, right? So obviously we had 6 games last night, and it had to work out, or 5 games, whatever it was. So all the numbers ended up in a half a point. It's rare these days, every once in a while, but it's rare that you get a whole number. It's generally 37.5, 38.5, 40.5, whatever. They always attack a half a point on there. So, all right, so let's go with, the overs. We'll start there. How many games Scott had under 37.5 or under 37? Not that many, just one, as a matter of fact. Houston and the Chargers, a tick under. It was 36.5. Game ends up 27-7, so that does go under, so that would be a loser in our little thing here, right? So that's 0-1. We had 5, though, games that were over 37.5, which meant we were betting the under. Let's see how well those turned out. Detroit and Cincinnati, 37.5. Cincy wins 16-14. Under hits, winner. Green Bay, Pittsburgh, 39.5. Pittsburgh wins 28-9. Under hits, winner. Indianapolis, New England, 37.5. That means betted under. End up being 13-13. Winner. Tennessee, 39.5 against San Francisco. Titans end up winning 19-13. Under hits again. Winner. The only one that lost on the underside was Arizona and Las Vegas. Barely. Just barely. When we gave the number, and some of these numbers may have changed a little bit, but 39.5 was it on Wednesday when we looked. Ends up being 24-17, so that one did go over. So we went 4-1 with the unders, 0-1 with the overs. 6 games, we went 4-2. Not bad. I'll take that. Beats 3-3, that's for sure. Certainly beats 2-4. So you want to give me a 4-2 every 6-pack I buy? I'll definitely take that. Then we had the underdog one, where I told you there were 2 trends. If you're an underdog from 1 to 3 points in the preseason over the last decade, you've covered 60% of the time, which is a pretty good clip since 2015. Road underdogs of 2.5 points or less, not 3, but 2.5 or less, covered at a similar rate, 75 and 38 against the spread the last 10 years. Those are 2 pretty solid trends, right? Anytime you get a number that's 60% or better, that's as good as it's realistically going to get. So, all right, so we were going to follow those religiously. So let's go with trend number 1, underdogs. Any underdog, home or away, from 1 to 3 points. We had 3 last night. Pittsburgh getting 1.5 against Green Bay, winner outright. New England getting 2.5 against Indianapolis. Remember, that ended up in a 13 all tie. We'll take that winner. And then we had San Fran +3, which was really, that was one where, as I'll tell you here, we kind of like bet against ourselves. So San Fran +3, that was a loser. They lose by 6. So the number 1 trend, in our 1-2 order, is Pittsburgh and New England winning, San Fran losing. So we ended up, we're really winning. So we ended up 2-1. The ones that were road dogs or less, that was number 1, right? Then the road dogs or less of 2.5 points ended up having 2 plays. Chargers getting 1.5 against Houston, winner. Arizona getting 1.5 against Las Vegas, winner. So we went 4-1. And then we told you some coaches and some teams that we're always going to play on and play against. One of them was Tennessee, which again, kind of contradicts our San Francisco. So they both kind of wipe each other out. But Salah, when we do with the New York Jets, as bad as they were, he was terrific in the preseason, going 10-2-1. So we told you we're always going to bet on him. So you should have bet on him from that standpoint. So that was a winner. That was the only one on that. Play against, we don't have any, or at least we didn't yesterday. So if you add it all up, we'll delete the Tennessee and the San Fran. No sense betting that and then losing the big, right? So realistically, on the teams and the underdogs, we ended up going 4-0. Not bad. You couple that with and then what I tell you, one of my absolute favorite plays in a preseason is week number 1. You play on the teams that played in the Hall of Fame game because they're one step ahead of all the other teams. So when they play last night, Arizona and the Raiders are just kind of getting their, feeling the ropes here. Arizona did that last week. That is a huge advantage. So I said, always play that. So we're going to play Arizona and Carolina. Lo and behold, Arizona wins. So if you add it all up, 4-2 with their over/under plays, play on game, with the team under their belt, in Arizona, that's 5-2. The road underdogs, 6-2, 7-2. And then the underdogs are 1 to 3 points, 8-2, 9-2. But 9-2. So for those that say, well, preseason's for the gambling degenerates, and you don't know, and how can you tell? It's the backups. You can tell if you do your homework, like anything when it comes to gambling or anything else. if you do your homework, you could find some trends. You have to make sense of them. You just can't arbitrarily say, okay, I'm going to bet a team because the trend says so. If the coaches are different, the players are different, the GMs are different. If it wins, it's just luck. It's not because of a solid trend. You look for trends. You look for head coaches who have shown a history of caring about the preseason, not caring about the preseason, and you just try and follow those where the trend makes sense. If you're going to bet against Dan Quinn, like we'll talk about here in a little while, you're going to follow Dan Quinn's career, whether it's with Atlanta or Washington. He just doesn't care about the preseason. Simple as that. 17-1 against the spread. So it's not a Washington thing where the coaches have changed. It's a Dan Quinn thing. The only one that is we're going to continue to bet against Dallas because that's a Jerry Jones thing. And Dallas 7-24 straight up, no matter who the head coach has been. They just don't care about the preseason, and I'm guessing that's coming from the top. So what was it? 8-2, 9-2, 9-2 last night. Not bad, not bad at all. So watching these games, and I'll get to today's picks a little bit later on in the program. But watching the games last night, there were a couple of things that stood out, but I won't bury the lead. I'm telling you right now, there is no way in the world. After watching this team play yesterday, DraftKings has their win total at 7.5. And I will tell you who the team is. You might not really be able to figure it out, believe it or not. But I'll go over their schedule, right? And then let's see if we can find 8 wins for this particular football team. All right, they got the Jets. All right, they can win that one. Right? And they got the Giants. And they can win that one on the road. There's 2, Scott. That's a pretty good head start. Not their first 2 games of the year, but in the first month. Then they got Philadelphia not winning. Then they got Baltimore not winning. Could they beat the Browns? All right, now that's 3 winnable games, and we're going to give them 3 wins in all. They're going to be the 50-50 team that wins the heads or tails, right? At Cincinnati not winning. Jacksonville not winning. Dallas not winning. Washington probably not winning. Detroit not winning. Could you get a split out of Indianapolis? Little hint. Okay, there's 4 wins. Could you win against the Raiders? That's 5 wins. Pittsburgh, that might be a toss-up. It's near the end of the year. And by that point, I'm expecting, everything to be just blown up in smoke with Pittsburgh. So I'll give you that one. That's 5 wins. And then they finish up at Houston. They're not winning that one. Best case scenario, they're getting 5 wins. And the team I'm talking about are the Tennessee Titans, or is the Tennessee Titans. I'm telling you, and I'm a Cam Ward guy. I wanted the Dolphins, as a Dolphin fan, to empty out their draft lotto and go ahead, take 5 first-round picks. I don't care. This guy's going to be great. He was terrific. Everywhere he was in college, including where he finished up in Miami. I thought he was going to be the be-all, end-all, and I still think he can be good. I'm not, throwing him out with the dirty dishwater. But, man, he was awful last year, and I was willing to write that off. Like Bryce Young, I jumped off the band, and I was never on the band. I didn't like Bryce Young coming out of college. I thought he was too small. Same thing with Tua Tags, right? I want nothing to do with mostly Alabama quarterbacks. So I jumped off that bandwagon quickly. I'm not necessarily jumping it off right now with Cam, and I thought he would be good. He sucks. Oh, and then they hired a defensive head coach in Salah. He's a defensive guy. The face of the franchise is your quarterback. Not only did you hire a defensive guy as the head coach, you hired a young guy, relatively speaking. So, he doesn't know what the fudge he's doing. And the face of the franchise is clueless. This team is just awful last night. Now, they won the game, but not because of Cam Ward. He looked lost. He didn't make – if what we saw last night, and I'm willing to bet on that, is what we're going to get this year, he didn't make any progress from last season. None whatsoever. You can make the case he looked worse than what he ever looked last season. They're not beating Philadelphia. They're not beating Baltimore. They're not beating the games against Houston. They're not winning against Jacksonville. There's no way. They're not winning at Cincinnati. I'm not even winning against the Cowgirls, who somehow or another found a way to lose against Arizona last year, like their 1 win after week 3. But even Dallas is going to be able to beat them. They're not winning in Detroit. Like I said, even if they won all of the 50-50 games, and that's saying a lot. No team wins all of them, realistically. But even if they did, they're still not getting to 8 wins. 7.5? Let me see. Just at it, this would be funny if DraftKings lowered their total. Don't be FanDuel. For whatever reason, doesn't have NFL win totals yet. I mean, hello, are you? Is anyone alive at FanDuel? We're a month away from the season. We're all signing up for survivor pools. We're talking football now. We're tired of baseball. We're tired of the NBA, WNBA. We're talking preseason. They got preseason lines. They don't have win totals. What are you doing, FanDuel? What are you doing? So anyway, fortunately, DraftKings does. And wouldn't that be funny if they lowered it after last night's game? I doubt they did, right? Generally speaking, and not to mention they actually won. But bigger picture is that they stink. Let's go to futures. Win total, Tennessee Titans. The only thing I don't like about DraftKings is that it's not in order, but they did. It's 6.5. I'm telling you, I saw 7.5 when I did my notes. It doesn't matter. Even 6.5, they're not getting the 7 win. We did 5. We just ran through their schedule. And winning every single 50-50 game and getting a split out of Indianapolis, which even that is saying a lot, that's still only 5 wins. Maybe they pull off an upset somewhere along the line. I really doubt it. They're not getting to 7-10. 7-10? This team was brutal last year. Would they have 3 wins last season? 2 wins last season? I mean, to think that they're going to go from 3 wins, right? 3-14 to 7-10? No way. Cam Ward didn't throw for 300 yards last year in any game. Not one game. He threw for less than 200 more than he threw for over 200. He was 0-2, 1-2, 1-3, 2-3, 3-3, 3-3, 4-3, 4-4, 4-5, 5-5, 5-6, 5-7, 5-8, 5-9, 7-9. He had 7 games of over 200, 9 games under 200. No 300-yard games. And watching him last night, if you think he's improving that much and this team is improving that much under an offensive or defensive head coach, not with my money. There's no way in the world that team is winning 7 games. Not even in that division and not even with those games on their schedule. That's got 3 wins again written all over it. Maybe 4 just because, they faced some teams later on in the year that were expected to be good. And like I said, Pittsburgh, and that's not. And they waved the white flag. Man, they look bad. For a team that won the football game, here's Robert Saleh talking about his guy, Cam Ward.
We'll go back and look, and I've got to talk to Dayball still. It felt like his decisions were right. It just felt like he was a little bit sped up more than he has been in camp. It's first time live bullets. I'm not sure, but it looked like his mechanics were a little bit more sped up than it has been, and which is good because we can go correct.
Good.
And
yeah, I don't think that's really good, Coach. I hate to break it to you. Mechanics or I'd rather have him. Misfire versus mechanics. Mechanics means you're like way behind the 8 ball. If you got the mechanics down and you're just not making the right reads or you're overthrowing your receivers, that to me is stuff you could work on. The mechanics means you got to go back to grade school. If you're not dropping back to pass the right way, or you're not looking over your shoulder the right way, or you're not looking at the blind side the right way, whatever, that stuff is trouble. That's basic football 101. So then when you throw in, well, it's preseason, Scott. Yeah, I know that, but you're taking on a San Francisco team that didn't play anybody defensively. And then when you look at Drew Aller, who just was brutal at Penn State, right? He played for Pittsburgh last night against Green Bay. Green Bay played some of their starters, finished 10 of 13 for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, here's a guy that stunk, just stunk. Never won a big game in his life in college. And, albeit first game, I get that, but still first game. He throws for 150 yards and 3 scores, leads Pittsburgh basically to the victory. And on the other hand, I got Cam Ward in year number 2, and he looks like he's a rookie out of Topeka High. 7 win. No, now listen, I was looking over some of my notes and, just going to go over, I give out picks on the website and stuff, right? So I was just cleaning up some website from last year. And I will say one of my plays last year was under New England Patriots, and their over-under was 7.5. And I wrote, if this team wins 8 games, I'll quit gambling, right? And they go to the Super Bowl. So obviously I didn't quit gambling. So crazy things can happen. There's no way in the world that I ever buy in New England winning, going to the Super Bowl. Never. I don't know what odds I would have laid on that, but if you would have said your life, I think I would have said okay. Devil went down to Georgia. My soul against your pick, and I would have lost. But I'll go right back to the well to go get my soul back. There's no way this Tennessee Titans team is winning 8 games or 7, even 7 games. I wish it was 8. That's funny. I wrote down 7.5 yesterday. I got a feeling they lowered that. I really do. Now you could go if you want to view more. You want to lay 8, under 8 is minus 320. No, I don't want to do that. I'll do the under or under 7.5 rather is minus 186. I don't want to do that. I'm the minus 115 on under 6.5 is fine with me. Unless you would have put one of those in a parlay or something like that. But they're not winning 7 games. So we got a bunch more games later on tonight. And if you want to continue with our system, why not? It's been successful. You have some games this evening that work out. As far as the over-unders, right? We'll start there again. You have 2 overs and 3 unders. I'll update the lines here because I did my work on this Wednesday. And let's see. We'll use FanDuel's lines. All right, Denver and Atlanta is 41.5. Jets is 35.5. Dolphins is 36.5. So they all kind of fall in line. Nothing really changes with them, right? No. So, all right. So for tonight, you got 2 overs. You got the Tampa Bay. Remember, if it's 37 or lower, then you bet the over. So 36.5, 35.5 with both these games. So you bet over in the Jet Tampa Bay game, and you bet over in the Miami Washington game. The underplays for tonight would be the other one, the Denver Atlanta one. That's over 37.5. So you bet the under on that. And again, we'll see how well that works out. Carolina and Buffalo is tomorrow. If you want to make note of those things. Same thing with the Rams. The underdogs and road dogs of 2.5 points or less would be Carolina and the Rams. Grab them plus the points. Just underdogs, home or away from 1 to 3 points. You grab them all. Giants, Baltimore, Jacksonville. Tampa Bay was on the list, but that's up to 6. So we're not going to play that one. Tampa Bay is playing nobody, and their backup quarterback got hurt. So now they're down to their 3rd and 4th string quarterback. So they're really a stay away. Washington was on the list at 2.5, but that lines up to 3.5, so you can't use them. So really you only have Chicago, Jacksonville, Giants, and Baltimore as your 3-point dogs or less that you can play on. Play against, though, you do have the anti-Dan Quinn thing. Dolphins laying 3.5. He is 7-17 against the spread in his 25 games as head coach in the preseason. So, and then the Dolphins got a rookie head coach, so that's a double whammy. We look for the rookie head coaches who want to bring in the winning attitude, install winning attitude. Not to mention it's his first game, also. So that's a positive. So that you would bet the Dolphins with that being albeit 3.5. Dallas, I told you the numbers. You're betting Seattle tonight, laying 3, or tomorrow, laying 3.5 or so. Dallas 7-24 in the preseason, 9-21-1 against the spread. And then you got to lay the wood. If you want to bet it, there's a reason why the Jets are up to 6.5. I told you the news about the quarterback, which I'll get into here in a little bit more. Bottom line is, though, Tampa Bay is 8-14 straight up and 7-15 against the spread with Todd Bowles. He just doesn't care about, the preseason. And again, he's got the backup quarterback that got hurt, so he's down to his third and fourth string quarterback. Baker's not playing today. There's really no reason. I would not be surprised if that line went over 6 and got over even a touchdown when the people really start betting this stuff for later on tonight. So those are the plays against. The plays on for tomorrow would be John Harbaugh with the Giants getting points against Minnesota, and then Cleveland. It's an anti-Chicago thing. Plus, you got the quarterback battle with the Browns, and the Bears aren't playing anybody. So, yeah, a little preseason. You got some stuff there to play around with. So it is a lot of fun. Couple of other NFL notes. Fernando Mendoza played last night, and I watched some of that game. He didn't look bad. You know what the problem was? And listen, I'm not going to hold him to this, for the rest of his career, let alone this season. Or actually this season, let alone the rest of his career. But it's the stumbling, bumbling Raiders. It's just, I don't know what it is with this dopey team. You could change owners or at least bring in new owners, i.e. Tom Brady. You could bring in new GMs. You could bring in new head coaches. You could bring in new players. But it's the same old, same old. This is the stupidest team in the history of sports. They create more penalties. They had 8 penalties last night for 75 yards. And then they all seemed to be in there when Fernando Mendoza was in there. I mean, they were making strides. They were going down the field, and every single play was called back. Offensive holding, illegal procedure, too many men on the field, this, that. There's always something with this Raiders team. It's a stumbling, bumbling bunch of misfits. They should just get her. I know it's valuable. I do. But Las Vegas should have just said, you know what? Unlike with Indiana and the Chicago Bears, who they won Chicago, and unlike with New Jersey with the Jets and Giants, where they won New York, I wouldn't want the Raiders. Forget it. Give me Baltimore and the Cleveland Browns. You can have the Las Vegas Raiders. You can have the LA Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, whatever you want to call them. Take the Raiders. I don't care. I want to get rid of that stench that is the Raiders over the last 30 years. That is just one mistake after another waiting to happen. The poor guy is playing well last night. And every good play was called back. He was 10 of 16. And then I'll give him a lot of credit. Afterwards, he was talking, they asked him, how well you thought you did and everything. He finished 10 of 16 for 97 yards, no interceptions, touchdown pass, sacked only one time. And, his thing was, I let the team down. And I'm like, you let the team down? How'd you do that? You didn't commit one penalty. It was the stumbling, bumbling offensive line and the wide receivers and everyone else that was committing penalty after penalty after penalty. Your numbers were terrific. But I give him credit. He took the high road and didn't say, well, I played well, but these idiots suck. He didn't. He could have. He should have. But instead he said, no, my fault. I let the guys down today. No, you didn't. It's the Raiders, dude. It's the Raiders. It's not, listen, when you went to Indiana, remember, it was only Indiana 1 year. Things had already turned around with Kevin O'Rourke the year before. So he hasn't been in a situation like the Raiders where it's just one mistake after another. Welcome to the Raiders franchise, dude. You're going to have to be extra good. There's been a lot of decent quarterbacks that have come and gone, that just couldn't get this dopey team over the hump, including Derek Carr. But, for one game, it's kind of like a smack in the face of reality with this Raiders team. How the hell did he commit 8 penalties in a preseason? Really, the officials want to get these games over with. They're not looking to call penalties. What, are you kidding me? And like I said, every single drive, it was penalty after penalty after penalty. I don't know what it is about this Raiders team. I don't know, but I'm telling you, it was something else last night. It really was. So, no Aaron Rodgers. We didn't think he was going to play for Pittsburgh. No one realistically thought that. Steelers played well, though. Like I said, Aller played well. Bungles, ended up winning, not covering. And they did play their starters, including, Joey B, who played, a series, maybe 2. Finished 5 of 6 for 39 yards. They played a bunch of quarterbacks, including Joe Flacco. So, that was kind of a stay-away game from us. Nothing really crazy. Patriots and Colts. The Colts getting a little bit of heat for kicking a field goal in the final minute. But it was a 61-yard field goal. I have no problem with that. Forcing a tie. There are no overtimes in preseason. They changed that rule. There was, then there wasn't, then there was, and now they eliminated the overtime. So you want to kick a field goal. It's a 61-yarder, and it was well over. It's like a minute 21 left. No problem with that. So especially since we were, getting the 2.5. So nothing crazy there. Drake May did not play. Chargers, Texans, Trey Lance looked okay. Big deal. Nothing really, that stood out yesterday. So today we got 3 more games, including that first one there with Denver and Atlanta. So here's the lowdown. Denver says they will start their players. Obviously, but the regular starters will start. No matter who is starting, it's still a starter, right? But the regulars will start, but no Bo Nix. He's still dealing with that fractured ankle, so don't expect him to play. He might play in the preseason game number 2 and 3, said Sean Payton. Falcons are going to start Tua Tags. No Michael Penix. He's still out with his ACL injury, so you got to get a dose of Tua Tags, Cooper Rush, then Jack Strand. Little surprised Denver's a favorite in this game. I think the quarterback edge goes to the Atlanta Falcons there. I'll be curious to see what Tua does. He's probably going to stink. It's down to 3.5. It was 5.5. But, I would think the Falcons would win that game with Cooper Rush. And then Jets, Tampa Bay, like I said, Jets say everybody is playing, according to Aaron Glenn. Jake Browning was slated to start, but he got hurt in practice this week. So you're going to, and no Baker Mayfield. So Tampa Bay is going with Connor Bazelak, the kid from Missouri, and Jalen Daniels. Not Jaden Daniels of Washington, Jalen Daniels of Kansas. Against a Jets team that says they're playing everybody. That's why that line is up to 6.5. Now, I don't think it'd get ugly because Aaron Glenn loves, Tampa Bay's head coach Todd Bowles. He was here when Glenn was playing. But they should have enough to cover the 6.5-point spread. And then our Dolphins and Redskin Potatoes, they did scrimmage this week, which sometimes takes a little, oomph off of it. Malik Willis is expected to start for the Dolphins. Hafley, the head coach there, says, the regulars should play some. How much is some? Who knows? And basically, Washington is sitting everyone, as we told you, the philosophy with Dan Quinn. So you have a situation last night with Tennessee laying 3.5 on the road. They won and covered. God-awful team. And you got the same thing tonight with Miami on the road, laying 3.5. God-awful team. But that's the preseason. That's just how it works itself out. Couple little things here, baseball-wise. Not that I didn't know we had, the Field of Dreams game, but I'm surprised I didn't bring this up yesterday. What idiot decided to have the Field of Dreams game last night? We'll get to that. We got Roger Clemens in the news. We'll get to that. We'll take a peek at the Cal Raleigh, believe it or not. And then we got some college football notes to get to as well with this number 5 at LSU situation growing a life of its own. It really is. So a lot to get to, including our picks for later on tonight. We'll review the picks that we gave out last night. We think it's a college football over-unders as well. And pretty funny WNBA news notes to get to. So first hour continues along right here on the Scott Wetzel Show on FanStream Sports.
Hi, golfers. IndyCar Tim here. I want to talk to you a little bit about Golf Central Magazine. It's not just a golf magazine. It's the magazine for everything. Turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Head over to golfcentralmag.com and check out the latest issue. Some of the regular features in Golf Central Magazine: the Golf Bachelorette of the Month, the Golf Bachelor of the Month, the Golf Cart Girl of the Month, Golf History, Grip It and Sip It. So head over to golfcentralmag.com. It's free. It's the magazine for everything: turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Golf Central Magazine at golfcentralmag.com. We'll see you there. Sports fans, it's time to gear up. Head to fanstreamsports.com and check out our brand new merchandise store. We're talking bold t-shirts, 3/4 zips, hoodies, hats, mugs, and more. Everything you need to rep your favorite shows and your favorite crew. Whether you're rolling with the J.P. Peterson Show in Tampa Bay, From the Rough in Dallas, the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, or the Jeff Thidoff Show in Ohio, or any of our FanStream Sports original programming, we've got the perfect look for game day and every day. So don't wait. fanstreamsports.com. Click merch and grab your gear now. Wear the stream, live the stream. fanstreamsports.com.
Hey folks, let me tell you about Bay Area Modern Medical Center, a very different kind of approach to primary care. Personalized preventative medicine, not a one-pill-fits-all mentality. Christopher Lugo and his experienced medical staff are proactive in looking at issues before they become a problem, encouraging a healthy lifestyle with proper diet, supplements, and exercise to optimize your active lifestyle. Rather than the impersonal, rushed approach, you will be the only patient and will have our full attention. That's new. Getting old is inevitable, but feeling and looking old is avoidable. Bay Area Modern Medical Centers are experts in anti-aging regenerative medicine that optimizes your body's performance in many areas. So call for an appointment to get started on a journey back to full health and a happy life with a new, modern way of healthcare. Call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com.
Today's show is brought to you by Tomstown, a premier craft distillery based in Kansas City, Missouri. Discover their award-winning lineup, including double oaked bourbon, botanical gin, and double grain vodka, named the best craft vodka by the readers of USA Today. Available for online delivery in 40 states. Visit toms-town.com or their Kansas City distillery to explore more. Elevate your game with Tomstown, where history meets innovation. Please enjoy responsibly. Orion Golf Management Solutions. Orion Management Solutions has tailored its service packages just like it tailors its approach to customers. Some owners need more supervision, while others need periodic assessment of their short-term and long-term strategies and programs. Orion can be called in to develop a business plan with the existing staff, or we can assist with the daily management of a facility or event. Either way, we make sure the client is satisfied and understands the direction the facility needs to go in order to achieve the owner's goals. Orion Management Solutions can help with owner assistance service solutions, daily course management, business plan development, monthly operations, or as-needed consulting services. Whatever your need, Orion Golf Management Solutions can help. Check out oriongolf.com.
Let's go!
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
And welcome back. It is the Scott Wetzel Show right here on FanStreamSports.com, FanStreamSports.com, Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, as we take you through the world of sports and then some. A couple of little YouTube chats here. Our good buddy Timmy and one of the LWs, loyal listeners out of Pittsburgh, all unders last night. Yeah, you know what, Tim? I did look that up. I thought it did. The one game that ended up being an over when we had the lines from Wednesday. Was it really an under, because the line did go to 41.5. So the 37-7 or whatever it was, 27-7 that ended up at 41 did go over. So all unders last night, which is kind of what people generally bet. But the boys in Vegas are pretty good to adapt to these things, so they lower the numbers and this and that. And lo and behold, yep, every single game. 19-13 way under. The Cardinals Raiders was the one. That was 39.5, but it bumped up to 41.5, and it ended up being right out at 41. So that went under. Chargers game went under 27-7, 13 all Colts and Pats, and then Bungles and Lions. And even the Steelers Packers, which had a ton of points early on, no scoring in the fourth quarter, that one snuck under the 38.5. That would be your bad beat of the day, right? You got 37 points. You're sitting on over 38.5. You got a quarter and change left to go. You figure you got to get something, right? Not to be. So are you going to get the same thing tonight? According to our numbers, yes. According to our numbers, it should go 2-1. So, but yes, all unders last night. And then a good buddy, Michael, with the podcast, one of the podcast crew, said he misses the podcast with our family stories, especially about my goofy wife that we always like to bring up. So, yeah, we'll get back to the podcast. We'll resume that at the end of the month sometime. So baseball yesterday, I don't get it. I really, couple of things here. First up, you got the Field of Dreams game, which is a great idea. They've had this gift just drop in baseball's lap, right? Baseball really doesn't have anything. The NFL, the Super Bowl, and every week is just great in the NFL, right? Hockey, I don't know if hockey really has anything either, unless it's the Olympics. But sometimes they have the Olympics, and I guess so does baseball. The NBA's got the All-Star festivities and everything else surrounding that, which I know is still pretty good. Baseball really doesn't have that, the home run derby, but who cares, right? They didn't have anything special in the regular season. Then they got this Field of Dreams movie. Great, just a great movie. If you don't like Field of Dreams, then you're just not human, right? So they had this idea, hey, you know what? Let's play a game at this facility. We could make a real Field of Dreams. And they've done it. They played maybe 4 games, maybe 5. I know they stopped a year because they were going to build a brand new stadium, and they did that. So, but they've had 4 or 5 sellouts galore. You can't buy a ticket. Great viewing and everything. And they've done the whole thing really well. They got the players coming out of the outfield cornfields like in the movie, right? So what's the problem, Scott? The problem is they had it last night, as we touched on a little bit yesterday. So what? We got football last night. I know it's only preseason football, but it's football, and it's the first preseason game. It's not the second or the last. This is our first, outside of the Hall of Fame game, this is our first gulp of football is back. Why, out of all of the days? I don't get it. I don't understand. Out of have the entire summer to play this game. And they're going to pick the day that football returns, knowing how big football is? It's the stupidest thing in the world. I mean, I knew it was played yesterday, but as I, got done dinner and I do my routine, I come back in the office and I turn the TV set on and I'm flipping through the preseason games and I want to watch Mendoza and I want to watch this guy and I want to watch, the Aaron Rodgers. I want to see if there was any kind of presentation or anything for him. And there wasn't, just interaction though. And I got all these storylines in the NFL. I forgot about the Hall of Fame game. Not to mention it was Iowa and Philadelphia or Minnesota in Philadelphia. But I understand it. You pick 2 teams, no big deal. But no personal interest for me. So I completely forgot about it until, the game was maybe half over. And then I tuned it on and was like, oh, yeah, that's right. There's don't be a, Hall of Fame game. Why? I don't understand. Like when they sat down and they said, we got to pick a game for this Hall of Fame game or this Field of Dreams game. Yeah, it's going to be a sellout all the time, those Scott. It doesn't matter, right? Yeah, I know, but we want to get a mass audience. These advertisers are paying $1 gazillion. Yeah, but it's a Field of Dream games. I'll tell you what. Let's make it on a Wednesday or Thursday because that's when Wednesday is getaway day and all the games are played during the day. And we could have this one at night, or we could make it Thursday when generally that's an off day, and we could have this be almost like a standalone. Okay, all right, that's a good start. All right, so let's pick a Wednesday or Thursday. Sometime in, you would think July and August. You want to get it in during non-school days. You don't want it in September. You don't want it in June when kids are in school. You want to have this be like, okay, a summertime thing, right? All right. How about sometime in July? Yeah, I don't know. Let's do August. No big deal, right? August, July. Yeah, all right, no big deal. Let's do Thursday. Well, Wednesday's usually getaway day, but okay, if you want to do Thursday, that's fine because that's most teams' off days. So we'll do like a standard on Thursday, right? Okay, I'm even okay with that. So you want to use Thursday the 6th of August? Nah. No, you sure? Nah. No college football. Yeah, I know. There's no NFL yet. Yeah, I know. You want to use the 20th when there's a ton of college football going on already? Or at least getting set to begin? And the preseason is well underway? Nah, let's not do that. How about the 13th, Scott? How about August 13th? Well, we got preseason football starting, Scott. That's the first day. We got 5 games. People have been jonesing for 5 months for preseason, even preseason football. I don't really think that's a smart day. Yeah, let's use that day. Well, how about the Wednesday before? If you want to use that week, okay. How about the Wednesday when there's nothing going on? You got all these afternoon games. We'll have a standalone night game. No. Let's, you know what? I want to go head to head with the NFL. I want to compete with exhibition football. We can be competing with the WNBA on a Wednesday. No, let's compete with the NFL on a Thursday. These people are idiots. I swear to God, the people that run these leagues, that they know zero, whether it's the NHL, whether it's the WNBA, whether it's Major League Baseball. The only two that get it are the NBA and the NFL. And you know I never want to praise, Adam Silver. Those are the only two. Why in the world would you ever pick? You got 60 days in July and August realistically to pick, and you pick the one in which the NFL returns. Oh, just idiots. Just idiots. I don't know what to tell you. And I'll tell you the other thing that bothers me. Did you see the beginning? No, I did not see it, but I saw a highlight of it, So they're trying to emulate the movie. If you saw the movie, there are different, themes and scenes in the movie, like, all the old timers that are all dead and gone coming through the cornfield. So they had the players last night, some of the old Hall of Famers walking into the cornfield, kind of cute and everything. And then near the end of the movie, I didn't quite get, I will say about the movie, I still don't know if the father who's dead, who comes back to life, knows that's his son or not. I still, people say, yes, of course he does, Scott. I don't know if he does. I really don't. But anyway, they want to emulate that. So Cody Clemens is on the Minnesota Twinkies. He's the son of Roger Clemens.
No, it's Iowa.
Is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. And then they go back. And as in the movie, they have a little catch there, right? All right, that's cute. No one's really, I will say, no one's paying attention, right? There's enough people mingling on the side, but all right. So they have the catch. All right. So what's the problem, Scott? Why does everything have to bother you? I don't know. I think it comes with being married. Everything bothers me. What did I miss? What do you mean? Since when has Roger Clemens been back in the good graces of baseball? What did I miss? This guy went to court. He lied in court. Why he didn't get his ass thrown in jail, I don't know. But, he threw his best friend, Andy Pettit, under the bus. He was as much a villain in the steroid era as Alex Rodriguez and Barry Bonds. Those three were really the figurehead on steroids, and Rafi Palmeiro as well. And Palmeiro's still a pariah. And that poor guy, he lied with the finger pointing, I did not do steroids. But Clemens was basically the same thing. And somehow or another, somewhere along the line, Roger Clemens got back into the good graces. He's on Fox TV or whoever was doing the games. He was part of the broadcast. I remember saying that at the time. Like, what? All of a sudden, Roger Clemens is back in good graces? All of a sudden, he's got to be part of this Field of Dreams thing? I get it. His son is on the team. But you know what? You didn't have to have Cody and Roger. You could have picked any other player on Minnesota or Philadelphia. I'm sure, without thinking, I'd have to look at the rosters. I'm sure there's another player that's got some family ties somewhere along the line. And hell, you don't even need family ties. Who cares? Just get a regular father. What's the difference? And that would really emulate the movie more than anything else anyway, because, the father didn't have a chance to really be a Major League Baseball player. Turned into a doctor as he crossed the line, So that would have made more sense, getting an obscure dad. But where did I miss? When all of a sudden is Roger Clemens just getting a free pass for all the lies and all the steroid use and all the things that he did? What happened? Just time? Just, okay, we're going to forget about it? Really? Is this an Alex Rodriguez thing? He kind of opened the door. But, A-Rod's been, part of the public now for a number of years. But I'm seeing some clips now with Barry Bonds. I get a melting of the ice with these Reuters, and I don't want it, unless, like I've always said this about A-Royd, and how I feel about him. At least he fessed up, At least he's had to pay the piper. Same thing with Rafi Palmeiro. At least he's fessed up. At least both those guys have talked about it, why they did it. They admitted they're wrong and this and that. And if you want to give guys like that a free pass, okay, you know what? I believe in second chances. But, the Roger Clemens and the Barry Bonds of the world have not. They've not faced the music. They've continued to live their lie. And I'm just shocked that they're now part of the American, mainstream USA all over again. Helps my card collection. I will say that. But you know what? They're bigger fish to fry than my baseball card collection. Although I do have a ton of like Roger Clemens. I don't have that many Barry Bonds, but as a Red Sox fan, I got a ton of Roger Clemens cards. I really do. And then, the irony of it all, as someone pointed out on Twitter, 8 men out was not based on the White Sox scandal, but that played a role in it, with Shoeless Joe Jackson and the guys. So, they're doing this game, emulating, again, Field of Dreams. And then on the outfield wall are BetMGM and FanDuel ads. So, it's just 2026, Scott. It is what it is. You're going to get those gambling ads. I get it, but they're trying to portray 8 men out and everything else, and the White Sox scandal with gambling, and then now you got 2 big monster gambling ads on the outfield walls. Can't even you can't even like have the Field of Dream games without having the gambling. I mean, really, it's getting sad. And I love gambling. I've been gambling my whole life. But it's like, Roger and Barry. Every time you turn around now, I got to see that. I don't want to see it. I really don't. But I thought that was kind of funny. When I was turning around, I was like, there's the BetMGM and FanDuel slogans in the outfield, when they're talking about gambling being supposedly so bad and everything else. So, Red Sox do win yesterday, speaking of baseball. So, our black cloud finally hit. We got that. And you know what? I'm actually encouraged in that, they only ended up taking 1 out of 3. And I was hoping before the series began 2 out of 3, or 2 out of 4, rather. They took 1 out of 4. But I was hoping for 2, but I'll take it knowing we've got the last win. And they're taking out a Pittsburgh Pirate team that's all but done. Bennett is pitching tonight for the Bo Sox. It's a 3-game series. I got a funny feeling, and I'm usually pessimistic with this team. I got a funny feeling they take at least 2 out of 3. I think just getting that 1 win last night, grand slam, it was a close game until the 8th inning when they broke it open. I can't help but think, wow, that's good. All right, we'll get out of here with a win. Not that bad of a deal. Could have been obviously a lot better, but still we'll take it. And I got a feeling they win tonight. I'm not going to bet on them, but I'm feeling a little bit better. Even though they did, like I said, win only just 1 out of the 4 games. But still, hopefully that turned things around. As far as, last night, Brewers scored a couple of runs in the 9th inning. They beat the Dodgers 5-4. So the Dodgers still scuffling a little bit. By the way, the Field of Dreams game was 7-1 Philadelphia. A lot of 7s last night. How weird is that, right? Angels score 7 runs, win. Phillies score 7 runs, win. Nationals score 7-run, win. Boston scores 7 runs and win. So 4 out of, there are only 9 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9 games. And 4 of the winning teams scored 7 runs. So interesting. We'll have our picks a little bit later on as far as who we're going to play later on tonight. We'll have some NFL and baseball picks thrown in there. So, good job by our buddy, coming up here in just a couple of moments, actually, Marc Lawrence. So in his coffee club, it's a daily email that he sends out, all kind of stats and trends and different things, storylines heading into today's action, right? So yesterday, he did a good thing with Cal Raleigh with Seattle. And it is true. Man, I tell you, I really do believe baseball has cleaned up its act. I don't think you can do steroids now without being caught. So I think that's accounting for all these guys hitting 250, 260, right? But Cal Raleigh is just the enigma of it all as far as what he was able to do last year and what he's doing this season. guy, he was never a great batting average guy. Always right around 250, 260 or so, right? He's hitting a $159. He hit over 60 homers last year. Only the seventh guy in baseball history and one of the few non-Reuters to hit 60 home runs. And he has 12 this season. 12. I mean, 43 RBIs. Look at his numbers. His home run numbers for his career, full seasons. 27, 30, 34, 60 last year, and 12 this year. He's on pace for about 16, 17. RBIs, 63, but that was only in 120 games. 75, 100, 125 last year, 43. On pace for about 60. Batting average. Again, never a great hitter. 211, 232, 220, even only 247 last year. But a $159 this year? I mean, how do you explain that? Again, that's got like, if this was in the 90s, early 2000s, you'd be saying Reuter. He's a steroid guy, Scott. Simple as that. And now he's off the roids. But I don't really think that's the case. I really don't. I'm not sure what it is. It can't just be. I know he was hurt there for a little while, but he is back. He's still played close to 100 games. He's going to play 120 or so games. Very weird. Very, 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 very weird. And listen, you could point to him. Not that it's only his fault. There's more to it than that. But you got the Seattle Mariners. A step away from going to the World Series last year, and this season, 8 games under 500. Outscored by 26 runs. Never really had any great streak. At least Boston had a great run. All these different teams, Minnesota even had a really good run. Seattle just didn't. They've basically just been playing 500 baseball the whole season until now when they really got into a little bit of a tailspin. So kind of weird. Definitely kind of weird. So I don't know. 30 home runs a year, and now he's on pace for 15, 16. He's 29 years old. It's not like he's old. Had the oblique injury, like I said, but man, that's got to be. I'd like to talk to somebody in Seattle and see, because they loved him so much last year. He had a phenomenal year, right? I wonder, how the Seattle fan is treating him now. I wonder, are they booing him? Any other city, if this was New York or Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago, they'd be booing him by now. They really would. So. All right, quick little break. Still a lot to get to, including some college football news and the Jaden Daniels flack with the number 5, which is just goofy. We got some more college football over-unders. We've been releasing a few of these every single day. We got 7 more today. Some WNBA news and a little lesson on how nobody beats the boys in Vegas. All coming up, hour number 2 of the Scott Wetzel Show right here on FanStream Sports.
Hi, golfers. IndyCar Tim here. I want to talk to you a little bit about Golf Central Magazine. It's not just a golf magazine. It's the magazine for everything. Turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Head over to golfcentralmag.com and check out the latest issue. Some of the regular features in Golf Central Magazine: the Golf Bachelorette of the Month, the Golf Bachelor of the Month, the Golf Cart Girl of the Month, Golf History, Grip It and Sip It. So head over to golfcentralmag.com. It's free. It's the magazine for everything: turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Golf Central Magazine at golfcentralmag.com. We'll see you there.
Sports fans, it's time to gear up. Head to fanstreamsports.com and check out our brand new merchandise store. We're talking bold t-shirts, 3/4 zips, hoodies, hats, mugs, and more. Everything you need to rep your favorite shows and your favorite crew. Whether you're rolling with the J.P. Peterson Show in Tampa Bay, From the Rough in Dallas, the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, or the Jeff Thidoff Show in Ohio, or any of our FanStream Sports original programming, we've got the perfect look for game day and every day. So don't wait. fanstreamsports.com. Click merch and grab your gear now. Wear the stream, live the stream, fanstreamsports.com.
Hey, folks, let me tell you about Bay Area Modern Medical Center, a very different kind of approach to primary care. Personalized preventative medicine, not a one-pill-fits-all mentality. Christopher Lugo and his experienced medical staff are proactive in looking at issues before they become a problem, encouraging a healthy lifestyle with proper diet, supplements, and exercise to optimize your active lifestyle. Rather than the impersonal, rushed approach, you will be the only patient and will have our full attention. That's new. Getting old is inevitable, but feeling and looking old is avoidable. Bay Area Modern Medical Centers are experts in anti-aging regenerative medicine that optimizes your body's performance in many areas. So call for an appointment to get started on a journey back to full health and a happy life with a new, modern way of healthcare. Call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com.
Today's show is brought to you by Tomstown, a premier craft distillery based in Kansas City, Missouri. Discover their award-winning lineup, including double oaked bourbon, botanical gin, and double grain vodka. Named the best craft vodka by the readers of USA Today. Available for online delivery in 40 states. Visit toms-town.com or their Kansas City distillery to explore more. Elevate your game with Tomstown, where history meets innovation. Please enjoy responsibly. Orion Golf Management Solutions. Orion Management Solutions has tailored its service packages just like it tailors its approach to customers. Some owners need more supervision, while others need periodic assessment of their short-term and long-term strategies and programs. Orion can be called in to develop a business plan with the existing staff, or we can assist with the daily management of a facility or event. Either way, we make sure the client is satisfied and understands the direction the facility needs to go in order to achieve the owner's goals. Orion Management Solutions can help with owner assistance service solutions, daily course management, business plan development, monthly operations, or as-needed consulting services. Whatever your need, Orion Golf Management Solutions can help. Check out oriongolf.com.
Let's go. Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Scott Wetzel Show on this Football Friday. Talking a little NFL, a little college football as well. We got the 2 guests. Colby, if you're watching and listening, if you hear me, you're at 3:30. So we got 2 guests on the line. Yeah, you had emailed me 3:30, right? So no problem, not a problem. We got the good buddy Marc Lawrence though joining us here. Playbooksports.com, playbooksports.com. What's going on, Mark? How are you this Football Friday?
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going over, before you came on the Coffee Club yesterday. You pointed out some great numbers on Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh. By the way, Coffee Club, great little email that you should sign up for, nice and easy over at playbooksports.com. And the numbers, Mark, I don't know, how do you explain it, right? I mean, if it was 15, 20 years ago, I'd say steroids, but I really don't believe steroids are in baseball anymore, not like they used to be anyway. But this guy was phenomenal last year, and this year he can't hit his way out of a paper bag. It's crazy.
You know, what's amazing is not only was he phenomenal last year, but you go back a couple of years also behind that. They weren't bad when you add them all up collectively, but they're nothing like they are this year. He's completely fallen off the map. Who knows what? I'm sure he doesn't know, and I'm sure he'd love to find out why.
Yeah, I just, he's never been a great or batting average guy. I pointed that out. So, but still 158, 159, like he's batting now is like really, really bad. He was never that bad. Usually around 230, 240 or so. But I'm sure the Mariners fan is pulling their hair out. If they were in a playoff spot, they'd probably just say, all right, he'll break out of it. But they're obviously not, Mark. I mean, they're in danger of falling out of this thing completely. And you hate depending on one poor guy, but, he's the main guy on that team, or at least was last year.
Right, just like a quarterback of a team that you're depending so much on him. You're looking at a player like that who had the year that he had last season, and the shows. I think where the finger has to be pointed there, no doubt about that.
Yeah. I was watching some of the preseason action last night, Mark, before we get into maybe today's games and some other things. I tell you, the one thing that I took out of it is this Tennessee Titans team. I don't know how much you saw of that game last night, but I'm a big Cam Ward guy, at least was coming out of college. And in college, I was ready to give him a pass for last year. But, man, he looked awful last night, Mark. Their over-under is 6.5 on DraftKings. And man, I don't see 7 wins with that football team. I really don't.
It's kind of hard. You look at that schedule and you add it all up, Scott. They're in a soft division. We'll give them that. But you still have to win games. And like you said, he did not look good last night. Okay last year. Didn't play like the first quarterback of the draft last year. But I think they got some problems here this year. I don't see them going anywhere other than the cellar again this year.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the games last night? Any impressions?
I didn't have a chance to watch too much any of them. And truth of the matter is I don't really watch a lot of preseason football. I'll read about them. I'll put the scores in my database and evaluate as things continue to keep moving forward. What I look forward to is the third and final week, what used to be the fourth and final week, but now the third and final week, to see when we get a little bit more time with these starters in these lineups here, you can tell a little bit more about these players. And right now, we're lacking so many what I'm going to call QB1s. These first string quarterbacks on these teams, they're nowhere to be seen. Aaron Rodgers, the likes of that. We know Patrick Mahomes and what his situation is, but we're not getting real genuine football at this time of the season.
Yeah, it's a little misleading too. For the fan that watches and they see Drew Aller last night, right? He was mediocre at best at Penn State, right? And he comes in last night, throws for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. You're thinking, wow, this guy should be starting. But it's just a whole different ball game when you put the real guys in there. It is amazing the difference, Mark, between the star NFL quarterback and really a backup quarterback.
Well, I put it all on the coaches here, Scott, in preseason when it comes to handicapping that. It's the coaches, and they have game plans. Some of them play to win. Some of them play not to win. They play to evaluate instead. So I like to focus on the coaches that I know are going out there to try and win a football game, and then maybe pair them up with a guy that's so not trying to win a football game. That's, I think, where you have your big edge in the coaching in the preseason games.
Yeah, I looked at that, headed into this week, and so far it's 1-0. Robert Saleh was terrific with the New York Jets for whatever reason, 10-2-1 in the preseason.
Yes,
they did get the win. As bad as Ward was, he did get the win and get the cover last night. Did Tennessee? We got the Harbaugh situation with the Giants tomorrow. That'll be interesting to see if he has the same kind of philosophy as the Giant head coach. Dan Quinn is one right for tonight. He's 7-17 against the spread in the preseason. So I don't think he's going to be taking this one too seriously in one of the games this evening.
No, in fact, I reevaluated the players and the coaches in our preseason edition of the playbook is out this week. It's like 24 pages of just really, really good deep down football information. And we put Quinn into the quarterback coaches, and we actually found him to be 7-20 straight up and 6-21 to the spread. He's one of the worst coaches when it comes to the preseason. He flat out doesn't care if he wins or loses.
Yeah. Tell you one of my favorite preseason ones, you can only have 2 games, but it hit last night, so I'll brag about it. And that is, I like playing, Mark, on the teams that played in the Hall of Fame game, next game, because they got one game under their belt that puts them so far in my world ahead of the team they're playing in week preseason number 1. That to me is a huge advantage. Arizona played well again last night. That they win and cover, obviously, against the Raiders. And in Carolina's basically pick them, maybe getting 1.5 or so tomorrow against Buffalo. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're going to find out about Carolina a lot tonight, Scott. And when I say that, yes, they do fall under that a game under their belt thought or theory in the preseason, which really, really means a lot. And what you're saying is really true. But Canales has really struggled in the preseason. That was his first win and cover in the preseason as a head coach. Or I should say he was 1-5 and 0-6 to the spread going into the preseason Hall of Fame game. So he's never been much about that. Now, if he comes out with a win and a cover here, we have to look at him entirely differently. And maybe we do so because his football team is all about making the playoffs last year and this year.
When do you put your futures in? Do you wait till the end of the preseason? Do you wait to see something starting quarterback battles are settled? Or do you say, nope, you know what, I like this team or I don't like this team, I'm going to bet it now versus rather than later?
Well, the truth of the matter is that on future bets, I'm really playing those early, and I'm basically playing them on either strength of schedules. I'm playing them on teams that were plus to the turnovers and minus to the turnovers last year, because what goes up usually comes down in the National Football League and vice versa. If you had a lot of turnovers last year, you come back the next year. That's going to be the Jets, by the way, this year. They will improve just by that statistic Whether it'll be enough to get him out of the cellar remains to be seen. But we'll see what Chicago Bears do this season. They led the National Football League in giveaway takeaways last year. And it only tells me one thing, that look for them to come backwards this season. And if they come backwards, that's going to make a wide open NFC North battle.
Yeah. How weird would it be if I don't know if you're following this at all, but there's serious consideration on them going to Indiana and still being the Chicago Bears, apparently. But, it's, the old age-old thing. It's, build me a new stadium, and these cities and states, are turning some teams down, and now they're threatening to move to nearby Indiana. How crazy would that be?
It would be crazy. I went through it in Cleveland with the Cavaliers. Yep. When Nick Maletti owned the team, and he took them from Cleveland to Richfield, Ohio, which is a trek. I remember the first game I went to, that opening night in Richfield, and it was a snowstorm. I felt like Admiral Perry driving through a snowstorm to get to the new Coliseum. It was really, really difficult. It didn't last long. They only played there 4 or 5 years. They went back to Cleveland because the fans support them. The fans want them. And I think they'll make a mistake if they go out of state. If they stay in state and maybe go an hour or so out of Chicago, I think the fans could live with that. But don't go to Indiana. I know it's a tri-state area there, and they're really close to it. But don't go to Indiana. How can you call them the Chicago Bears when they play football in Indiana? Come on.
Yeah. I mean, we got it here in New York and New Jersey, but with the New York Giants and New York Jets. But it's people still think they're in New York, and they're not. Even the headquarters, their offices, all in Jersey. It is, but. That moniker New York is so big.
Sure.
Speaking of the Browns, so where are they going? Is it going to be Deshaun Watson? It seems like more and more Watson's going to be the starting guy over Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel.
I think he has to be. Scott. Number one, if he's healthy, I don't think there's a question. They have all this money invested in him. They have to try and see a return if one's returnable there. And he claims he's healthy. And if he is, he's really poured his heart and soul back into Cleveland here. He's moved his family to Cleveland. They love it in Cleveland. And if he does that and continues to say and do the right things, the fans can wrap their arms around him. If they do, he is the better quarterback. Obviously, if he's healthy or not. Shedeur Sanders will be a nice backup. But they're not going to go anywhere with Shedeur Sanders here. He's very limited. I mean, he can look good at times, but he can also hold the ball way too long, and that only leads to sacks. So I think you're going to see Deshaun Watson open the season up for the Browns.
So what do they do, Mark? It kind of reminds me of the Sam Darnold situation in Minnesota a couple of years ago, right? They bring him in, 1-year contract, wins the starting quarterback battle, does well, takes them to the playoffs, right? Let's say the same thing happens with the Browns, and he comes in, he goes back to being the old Deshaun Watson. I mean, do you give him, after all the money that they've given him for basically nothing, and he has one really good year this year, we'll say, do you again give him a 3-year, 4-year, $200 million contract like these quarterbacks are getting these days, and go right back to that same, well?
Well, I think a lot of that will depend upon where they are in the schedule and at what point he stinks to join up. They don't have their bye week. I'm looking here in our magazine here until November 22nd. So if he's playing poorly, they can't wait that long. So you might see him pulled after 6 weeks if he doesn't really, really perform. But I think they'll give him that first good 6 weeks to see whether or not he is worth the investment they made.
But what if he does do well, though? Would you? You're a Browns fan. Would you be okay with that? Let's, like I said, maybe not the playoffs. That might be that's realistic. Anything can happen. Look, the Patriots went from 3 wins last year to the Super Bowl. So let's say he takes them to the playoffs, and then maybe they lose the first round, but they go 11-6, and maybe even 10-7. Would you want them to re-sign him?
Well, if he got him to the playoffs, I would think so. Yes, I think that's a chance for them to get a little bit more of their money back if they made it to the playoffs. Their schedule is really in their favor here this year too, Scott. You take a look. There's a span from late October to November where they have 5 weeks in a row where they have no road games. That's really, really good in the Browns' favor here. The other side is number 2. You look at, I mentioned turnovers here earlier before. They were the second worst team in the league in turnovers last year. That should come back to the norm. But I think what really works here is the trade of Myles Garrett. And I'm saying that because, number one, their defense was a really staunch defense last year. And the players on the team, I put this in the coffee club, they resent the fact that everybody's poo-pooing them because Garrett's gone and the defense will be lousy. The defense will not be lousy. Jared Verse, the defensive end they picked up from the Rams, is terrific. He was defensive rookie of the year. Schlesinger, the linebacker, was Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. They're the only team in the NFL to ever have back-to-back Defensive Rookies of the Years playing on the same team.
And that division, Mark, is that would, like, if you wanted to take flyers on different teams, I don't think the Browns is the worst option. I really don't. I think Pittsburgh. I think Aaron Rodgers is just going to hit a wall. The dude's 43. God bless him. At 43 years old, still playing in the NFL. But I think he's going to hit a wall. We know Joey B, as much as I love him, he's an injury waiting to happen. Baltimore, should be pretty good, I would think. But with a new regime, I don't know. But it wouldn't be, to me, the craziest thing in the world for that Browns team to be at least competitive this year.
Well, I wouldn't be totally shocked. I'd be maybe a little bit in awe. Congratulations, I would say, to Jeff Monken on doing a nice job in getting them there, because they do have some talent on this football team here. They have really strong in the running game here as well. They can solidify the quarterback position and rely on that defense. You mix that all up together here. Look at the other teams in the division. Let them slip backwards. Pittsburgh's fully capable of slipping backwards with a 42-year-old quarterback. And Cincinnati, as you mentioned, Joe Burrow, are we going to see 16, 17 games out of Joe Burrow this season? I don't think so. So if that ends up being the case, Cleveland could end up battling for the top of the AFC North.
All right, we got 3 games tonight. The one that jumps off the page that looks a little too easy is Jets and Buccaneers. Jets say they're going to play everybody. Buccaneers don't have their starting quarterback, Baker Mayfield. He's not playing. Their backup, Mark, got hurt in practice this week. He's not playing. So we got our 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks for the Bucs going. I don't like laying close to a touchdown in a preseason game, but man, this does have like 20-3, 20-6. And Todd Bowles, the Bucs head coach, isn't, his history of these preseason games is he doesn't care. So this does look like a double-digit Jets win. Do you like any of the games tonight, including that?
Well, if you and I were in Vegas together, Scott, and you excuse yourself and you had to go up to the window to bet this game, I'd probably stop you on the way and remind you that, remember, Scott, you're talking about it's the New York Jets
I know.
and laying 6 points with.
Yeah. We had the Tennessee Titans last night not only be favorites, but road favorites. We got the Dolphins being not only favorites, but road favorites tonight. And we got the Jets laying almost a touchdown. If that doesn't scream preseason is different, Mark, than regular season, then nothing does.
Well, here you're true about that. That's exactly right. The quality of the teams that are laying points here. But I think there's a stick out on the card here tonight, and it's in the Miami-Washington game. If you take a look at the parameters and what's all involved here, you've got 2 new defensive and offensive coordinators for Washington. You've got a new coordinator for Miami. You've got a whole new total makeup look to Miami. Washington's really struggling. Dan Quinn, as we talked about, doesn't care about preseason games, winning them or losing them. I think this game could be a dead nuts under. I don't think we're going to see a lot of points here. The defenses are going to be not the strength of either of these 2 football teams. I think we could look under in that game, Washington-Miami tonight.
How about all unders hitting last night? 6-0.
Unbelievable.
Right? I mean, the one game went under by a half a point, and that line had jumped up the Arizona game. It was like 39-40 or so, but then it went to 41.5 and it landed on 41. So yeah, is that a general rule of thumb? Look for unders in preseason games, or that just happened? You think that's just like a fluke?
Well, last week was a fluke. Okay, every game going under had to be a fluke, but they have been lower scoring games up until about the last 2 years when things opened up a little bit. We saw the opposite of that last week. If it continues again this week, we could say the switch flipped and we're back to the unders, because I don't think you're going to see a lot of offense in the preseason here. I think these coaches are more concerned about looking at their defenses and the depth on the defenses. And I think that's their main focal concern. And in Miami and in Washington, you have 2 teams that are really lacking in offense here as well.
Yeah. All right. What's that playbook sports.com this week and today?
Well, what we're doing, we just published our preseason Part 2 football newsletter. It's 24 pages, just jam-packed with a lot of good stuff inside of there. If you want to know all about these coaches that I'm talking about, we have every coach's record broke down in their entire NFL history, what they do in the preseason, their best role, their worst role. There's a ton of great stuff inside of there. And there's also previews on the regular season coming up. So you might want to get your hands on a copy of that, our preseason newsletter. You can find that and a whole lot more at playbooksports.com. And just this note in passing, Scott, if you subscribe to anything that we do of subscription publications, you'll get that coffee club that you talked about free on me, no charge in your inbox every day from now until the Super Bowl.
Cool. Playbooksports.com, folks. Great site, and Mark said some great things on that website. So, Mark, great job as always, man. Do appreciate it, and enjoy the weekend, and let's get some winners.
Hey, Scott, enjoy the games. Be well, and I'll catch up with you next week.
You got it, man. Appreciate it. Marc Lawrence, playbooksports.com, a good buddy to the program. And it is, I love the coffee club. It gives all kind of betting trends and different stories and lines and all kind of things to follow. And then it's like, it's affordable. Couple things he charges for, but there's a lot of free stuff on there as well. It's a real good site. He's a real good man. So do appreciate that, Marc Lawrence. Playbooksports.com. Yeah, the preseason, that's not bad, with the Dolphin under, 36.5, that our trend wise would say over. If you want to buy into the original trends, that would say over. But he really seems to like the under quite a bit in that football game. I'll pound away on the Jets. I know he's 100% right. It's the New York Jets, right? I mean, but we saw not only did Tennessee win, not only did Tennessee cover, but they won and covered with their starting quarterback playing lousy. So, some of these trends in these preseason games it's tough to do. Who wants to lay, 6.5 points with the New York Jets, right? But, when it makes sense, the one thing about preseason, unlike the NFL regular season, NFL, you can get the premise right, but team makes this great comeback and stuff. You don't see too many comebacks in preseason games. The guys, they're not necessarily give up, but, some of these backups just aren't really any good. It's not like they're not trying, but, you don't generally see that. So, quick little, 14-3 Jets lead, man. I'm not that I'm cashing my ticket, mind you, but it looks a whole lot better in the, preseason than it does in the regular season. That is for sure. So I got some college football over-unders. So here we go. We gave out a bunch on Tuesday. Gave out a few more yesterday, and now here Friday. So maybe it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But here's to go over the ones we gave out, and I'm going to go back over this weekend, and then next weekend we'll make it official. But these are the ones I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper, right? We like the over in Ball State. We like the over in Boise State. We like the over Arizona State. These are team total overs. Like the over Fresno State, Georgia, and Jacksonville State. All right, so I'll give you three more that I was looking at last night. Navy is 7.5. I looked at them, and I got them winning 10 games. Maybe 9, but I like their schedule. They got a bunch of kids. It's rare that you say this, but they got, 4 guys on offense, 5 on defense coming back. The head coach has done a great job there. He's coming back. There's no reason in my world why this team should all of a sudden go from a 10-win football team like they were last year to 7 wins. They're going to go 7-5. I don't see it. I really don't. To me, they only have one automatic loss, and that's Notre Dame on their schedule. All the others are winnable. So I like the over Navy 7.5. I like the over 7.5 North Carolina State as well. Another team that had some success last year. Their quarterback is back. They were last season. I didn't write it down, but they were 7-8, 8-4. I think they were. No changes, no major changes. They returned a few of their guys, which is always key, but easy schedule. That's the key with this one. Clemson, no. Miami, no. SMU, no. 3 best teams, arguably, in the ACC, and they don't have to play any of them. That's, I don't see this team going, 7-5, which is what you'd have to have in order to miss out on the over 7.5. With that easy of a schedule, I got them going 9-3, and that's being a little conservative. Then I like over 4.5 Nevada, believe it or not. Another team last season wasn't very good, 3-9, but they returned a bunch of their guys. And the conference they're in got real easy. I see 5 wins for this Nevada football team. I think they're going to bounce back. They've been a pretty good program over the years. Not great, but halfway decent. The unders we gave you before today, under Air Force, 7.5, under 2.5 Charlotte, under 6.5 Florida State, under 4.5 Georgia State, and under 8.5 Kansas State. I'll give you 4 more here. We're going to go under 7.5 Memphis. I got them going 4-8. They lost everybody. Their head coach left for Arkansas, new head coach. All the players left. I don't see, in the American Conference, pretty good conference. I don't see 8-4 for Memphis. I think they're going to go. In fact, I got them going completely the opposite. I go 4-8. I'm going to grab under 7.5 plus 144. You could go 8.5 if you wanted to, but I'll take the plus money under 7.5 Michigan. I think they're going to have a long season. 6-6. I got them written down for. Under 4.5 North Carolina. Kind of rooting for Belichick a little bit, but it's not happening. They were awful last year. What they finish up last year? North Carolina, I wrote it down here. They were 4-8 last year. I think they're going to go even one step worse. I think they're going to go 3-3. Tougher schedule this year as well. I just don't see them winning these games. They were so bad last season. And then last one, I'll grab under 5.5 Northwestern. Again, they fired the head coach, Pat Fitzgerald. He's gone. He's over at Michigan State now. He's the one that kept that program afloat after all these years. It was the abyss for college players and coaches. I don't know if it's going to fall that far back, but I don't see 6 wins. The over-under is 5.5. I got that as 3-9. They play a bunch of the big boys in the Big Ten. I don't see, and even the one winnable game, Michigan State, their players at Michigan State, that's a home game for them, are going to be pumped up for that one. They might not win that one. Like I said, I got them winning 3 games, so I like the under 5.5. We'll take a quick little break. Colby Dant, the College Experience Podcast, will join us. The Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We'll get some college football over-under thoughts from him. As hour number 2 continues, it is live still to get to the Scott Wetzel Show here at FanStream Sports.
Hi, golfers. IndyCar Tim here. I want to talk to you a little bit about Golf Central Magazine. It's not just a golf magazine. It's the magazine for everything. Turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Head over to golfcentralmag.com and check out the latest issue. Some of the regular features in Golf Central Magazine: the Golf Bachelorette of the Month, the Golf Bachelor of the Month, the Golf Cart Girl of the Month, Golf History, Grip It and Sip It. So head over to golfcentralmag.com. It's free. It's the magazine for everything: turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Golf Central Magazine at golfcentralmag.com. We'll see you there.
Sports fans, it's time to gear up. Head to fanstreamsports.com and check out our brand new merchandise store. We're talking bold t-shirts, 3/4 zips, hoodies, hats, mugs, and more. Everything you need to rep your favorite shows and your favorite crew. Whether you're rolling with the J.P. Peterson Show in Tampa Bay, From the Rough in Dallas, the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, or the Jeff Thidoff Show in Ohio, or any of our FanStream Sports original programming, we've got the perfect look for game day and every day. So don't wait. fanstreamsports.com. Click merch and grab your gear now. Wear the stream, live the stream. FanStreamSports.com.
Hey folks, let me tell you about Bay Area Modern Medical Center, a very different kind of approach to primary care. Personalized preventative medicine, not a one-pill-fits-all mentality. Christopher Lugo and his experienced medical staff are proactive in looking at issues before they become a problem, encouraging a healthy lifestyle with proper diet, supplements, and exercise to optimize your active lifestyle. Rather than the impersonal, rushed approach, you will be the only patient and will have our full attention. That's new. Getting old is inevitable, but feeling and looking old is avoidable. Bay Area Modern Medical Centers are experts in anti-aging regenerative medicine that optimizes your body's performance in many areas. So call for an appointment to get started on a journey back to full health and a happy life with a new, modern way of healthcare. Call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com.
Today's show is brought to you by Tomstown, a premier craft distillery based in Kansas City, Missouri. Discover their award-winning lineup, including double oaked bourbon, botanical gin, and double grain vodka. Named the best craft vodka by the readers of USA Today. Available for online delivery in 40 states. Visit toms-town.com or their Kansas City distillery to explore more. Elevate your game with Tomstown, where history meets innovation. Please enjoy responsibly. Orion Golf Management Solutions. Orion Management Solutions has tailored its service packages just like it tailors its approach to customers. Some owners need more supervision, while others need periodic assessment of their short-term and long-term strategies and programs. Orion can be called in to develop a business plan with the existing staff, or we can assist with the daily management of a facility or event. Either way, we make sure the client is satisfied and understands the direction the facility needs to go in order to achieve the owner's goals. Orion Management Solutions can help with owner assistance service solutions, daily course management, business plan development, monthly operations, or as-needed consulting services. Whatever your need, Orion Golf Management Solutions can help. Check out oriongolf.com.
Let's go! Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
And welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Scott Wetzel Show right here on FanStreamSports.com, FanStreamSports.com. Taking a look at the college football world with who better to talk to. No one knows the college football scene like our next guest, Colby Dant from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. His podcast, the College Experience Podcast. What's going on, Colby? You're back. College football is back if we're seeing and talking to you. How are you, my friend?
I am great, man. And it's something all of a sudden in August you start to feel, because I'm doing previews all through the off season, and in May it can get a little bleak. Whereas you get to August, you see the games are on the schedule, you see the TV announcements and stuff, and that's why I got in here 30 minutes too early, man. I had too many coffees, man. But how you doing, bro?
Good. I'm just going over my stuff. You're obviously, like you said, months into it. So I have a procedure with my team win total overs and unders, Gold, in that I initially I don't look at the lines. I look at the teams, try and do the evaluations on them. Then I figure out how many wins, and then I'll go run down how many the wins the boys in Vegas have them for. And if I can find a discrepancy of 2, that's like, God forbid 2.5. That's like a home run. And then I'll look at those things even a little bit more closer. So that said, I'm not through all of them. I'm through M's right now. I'm heading into Nebraska right now in my alphabetical list here, but I have about 15 already. So I don't know how many do you have when everything is said and done after you do all your research, and can you whittle it down to 15, 20? Because you know everything. So
I mean, I probably go in on way too many. Like if my wife knew,
you don't want to say,
it might not be my wife, but I would say last year the problem is sometimes you're out with some buddies or something and they sell you on their team, right, and you're having a few cocktails or something, and next thing you know you're going in on it and you say, wait, when did I do this play? But no, I'd say last year I did about 50 plays.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
Win totals, just win totals. Futures, right. If you're talking futures, that we could get, this gets really messy. But yeah, about 50 plays, I would say. And a lot of times the line moves and stuff. You take like Southern Miss last year. My ego thinks that I moved the number, even though it did move though, and I got 4.5. And by the time we got to July, or maybe early August, that thing was at 5.5. I think it might even rose from that. So sometimes I'll even double down. Sometimes I think I should have threw more money, because you get certain feelings through the season. Or like years previously, you had the two transfer windows, right? And you get a situation. The college sports world is just crazy right now. So you get a situation like BYU's quarterback last year got kicked off the team. He ends up at Tulane. That didn't happen until August. So you're jumping in on that. This year it's the 5 for 5 thing. I don't know if you followed this at all, but a judge in Colorado ruling this thing, and all of a sudden Indiana's got 2 of the best defensive linemen back in college football. You're just sitting there like, whoa, I might have miscalculated a little bit. And I thought I was high on Indiana, but now I'm super high on Indiana. So things like that. And there's a few other players, there's Pitt might get Desmond Reed back. That's a game changer to me. So the sport is crazy, but sometimes you end up betting more. Sometimes you had the same bet with the same team 3 or 4 different times, because you either see the number go down or the number go up, or a player's added, something like that. A coach is fired, something like that.
Yeah. The other thing I'm finding, is that, Cole, they don't, not all the time. Sometimes you get a normal line, but I found numerous times, that you can either Kansas State is 8.5. If you want to bet the under, it's -135, or you can bump it to 7.5 and bet the under at plus odds. Do you have a general rule of which way you go, or is each team maybe different? But some of these bigs, Florida State's another one. At 6.5, it's minus 180, or you could take 5.5 at plus money. Would you rather lay the big odds with the one less win, or go the other way?
I think it's situational with Kansas State.
Okay.
With Kansas State, I think I get the point of looking for that. If you feel really good about the team, you obviously can bump it up for extra juice. But in Florida State situation where I don't know that Norvell will be coaching the whole season. You know what I mean? And some of it could be I don't even know that his record would be that bad. All it takes is one embarrassing loss. And, with each given month, his contract buyout's going down. So I don't think they wanted him this year. And based on the transfer portal and the money that they allocated, we think for him, that's one where you say it seems like they didn't want him based off of they didn't really spend on the roster. They just didn't want to buy out $50 million. So then it's well, how do we judge this? Those ones are really hard, especially nowadays with the portal, where the teams quit. Specifically, Florida State's been a great quitting team because they live so much by the portal that there's no culture there, even with their undefeated season. You know what I mean? A few years back, that year they hit on all the transfers. Well, since then they haven't really hit on the transfers, even though they were spending. But this year they're not even spending at all. So those ones are a little shaky. Where that one might actually be worth paying the juice on that one, or depending on if you think he'll be there or not.
Right. So which I figured. I guess each one is a little different. Sometimes you pay the juice, other times you don't pay the juice. So that makes sense. What are some of the over-unders that you like?
One of the big ones for me is I'm going to fade USC, even though I know I don't like these teams going. The mileage thing's a real thing for me. I know we do plenty of shows throughout the weeks of the season, and I am. You've seen Louisville as what I think they were 21-point favorites go to Stanford and lose. Right? Yeah. You saw Penn State. It's kind of the game that got Franklin fired. Lose at UCLA last year. Right? UCLA was terrible at the time, winless. Right? If memory serves me correct. Yep. You saw SMU, a game away from the college football playoffs, potentially about to go to the ACC championship. They lose at Cal, right? And Florida State lost at Stanford. We haven't factored this in enough. USC lost at Maryland. Maryland's been terrible. So I just think the mileage is too much. They also have a really tough schedule. They canceled Notre Dame for a reason. I think that the schedule this year was actually, if you add Notre Dame to the mix, unbelievably hard, because I find it hard in general. They have home games at the LA Coliseum there against Oregon, Washington, and Ohio State. And also they get UCLA at the end. I'm a big fan of the Bob Chesney hired at UCLA. I think that's going to work. I'd much rather play them in the first month than the final month of the season. But then you add the road trips. Even a game like at Rutgers or at Wisconsin, historically, since they've joined the Big Ten, I think they only have one win going east, and that was Purdue, right?
Wow.
So the game at Wisconsin, I think that's I don't have the schedule in front of me right now, but I think it's October 27th or 21st or something. Yeah,
24th. Yeah, look at that now.
We saw Washington lose that game last year. Washington was way better than Wisconsin. These are real things.
Here's their gauntlet. I mean, holy fuck. You're right, Colby. Their schedule is just. They have a stretch of Oregon at home, end of September, Washington, at Penn State, at Wisconsin, Ohio State, Indiana. I mean, that's a hell of a 6-game stretch.
And as much as I do believe their talent level's the best it's been in a few years. It doesn't matter the sport. You know this, whether it's NHL, whether it's NFL, when you start putting on this much mileage, there's real, there's a loss there that you're not seeing because they're going to come out flat. They're not used to it. They're not used to playing in cold weather, right. So to me, at Wisconsin's a much trickier game. They do get Rutgers early. Maybe, Rutgers has been not the greatest program, flirting with 5 and 6 wins, I would say, the past 3 or 4 years. But I think they're dogs at home against Ohio State. I think they're dogs at home against Oregon. They'll probably get Washington, but I don't even like the UCLA matchup at the end of the season. And to me, it's just another thing of why did you join the Big Ten? You know what I mean? Like why because USC was the real difference maker there. They wouldn't have been able to grab all those schools. Oregon went with USC just because USC was the one, and I think and I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be very hard for them to ever reach that level of USC with them being in a conference where they go east so much.
Mm-hmm. Give me another. What do you like?
I will take you to the likes of. I like Liberty in general. I think Liberty and the Conference USA, they spend crazy. Like their budget football wise, it's a private school, so we don't know. But from what word of mouth is 3 times the amount of almost every school in that conference. Last year they only won 4 games, right?
Yeah,
and they haven't announced this information, but they did say that their head coach was battling a illness last year, like he was sick, which explains a lot of why they struggled. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they'll come forward at some point and say something, but I just refuse to believe in a conference that also loses Louisiana Tech, who was one of the better schools in the conference last year. They go to the Sun Belt. UTEP heads out to the Mountain West. Not that UTEP was any good, but they're basically like an FCS conference, and to me, I just buy into the money. And if anything, like if you look at what they did in the portal, they went even deeper into bringing in big-time players. Kanye Uday, running back from Arizona State, the quarterback, Deshaun Purdy. This guy was the guy that Florida was raving about just about 16 months ago. So I just think that they're going to run away with it. Love the over. I like them to win the Conference USA, and I think it's going to be pretty easily.
Yeah, I see they got James Madison on the road. I'm looking at that, but other than that,
that's a non-con game. You can lose that game.
Oh, that's right.
That's a rivalry game. That's a great week 1 matchup, but in conference, everyone else, like, I don't think is really, Kennesaw won the conference last year. Their team got rated in the portal. That's the thing nowadays with the mid majors. Unless you have a school that can afford to keep your players there, it's really hard for them to keep continuity.
Yeah.
At the the group of 5 level, unless you're Memphis or unless you're Liberty, unless you're some of these schools that actually have a decent checkbook, UNLV, then it's going to be really challenging to keep all your players. So, but Liberty is definitely one of those, and that's why I think it's an easy play.
All right, how about another over or under?
Yeah, I will take you to Marshall. That's another one.
Ooh,
I mean, the Thundering Herd. That's one in the Sun Belt. I was kind of blown away last year. I lost money on Marshall because their whole roster went to Southern Miss after they won the Sun Belt Championship 2 years ago. And I was like, I'm going to fade them. They bring in Tony Gibson, who's a Rich Rodriguez guy, and he had them ahead of schedule. They were 5-7, but they had so many close losses. They were like 10 points away from being like a 9-win team. And they bring back a lot of that. Their defense was terrible, and Gibby's a defensive guy. I've followed him his whole career, really. I think he's one of the elite defensive coordinators. He's going to find a way to get that right. They return their quarterback. And to me, the Sun Belt's kind of in taboo right now. We hit on James Madison a second ago. Their head coach left for UCLA, Bob Chesney. They bring in Billy Napier, but they're also, a lot of that roster went to UCLA. So they're kind of in a refresh. Now, they spend a little bit more than everybody in the Sun Belt, JMU. So I would still favor them to win the conference, but I think Marshall is very much alive to win that conference. I love the win total over. I actually think, you want to talk crazy, Matt Campbell historically has been a terrible favorite. I know he was at Iowa State, but if you look at Penn State's roster, 24 of those players came in from Iowa State. Week 1, Marshall, Penn State. I'm not calling for the money line, but I don't mind a first half money line, and I certainly would take the points, knowing that Campbell has struggled so much as a big favorite. So that's one right there. I mean, I could go bigger schools too, but those ones I was just recently doing those, and I was just like, man, I got to go in on Marshall. I got to go in this. So Thundering Herd, I think, is a good play.
All right. How is Miami, Notre Dame, or even Indiana not making the college football playoffs this year? Because their schedules are so easy.
Yeah, I mean, those three, you really – I mean, Notre Dame, you would think even if they lost the second game with the way last season went with them getting kind of robbed, you would think the committee and just the power and the clout of the university and even the public perception of them, I think most college football fans would tell you, like, they were one of the 12 best teams last year. If we're doing a 12-team playoff, they were one of the 12 best teams last year. So I think they would have to lose 3. I think 2, they're still in. I know people said the schedule's light. I just think based off the way last season went, they lose 2. I think they're still in. So I don't see them missing it. There's no way to me. Miami would be the one of those 3, just because I think there is a scenario there where Cristobal might have just caught lightning in a bottle. Now, I'm one that, like, I don't think many people were ready to have this conversation, but that was a 7-way tie for the ACC championship last year. I think Miami might have benefited by not playing in it.
Definitely.
Yes. And I was at that championship game. I covered that for my company, and it was freezing, and it was like a misty day. Boys from Miami, and look, they who knows what they would have been playing. You could play, was it Duke? Was it Virginia? Was it SMU? Was it Georgia Tech? Wake Forest? Because the tiebreaker scenario was so wacky. But they did lose to Louisville and SMU in the regular season. And the Louisville game, they never even had the lead in. That was in Miami. So Cristobal, as much as I must eat my words a little bit, because it was a great performance that he did, and I do think he's learned to let his coordinators be more of the coaches than him, which is a skill in its own right for a good head coaching. But I still think, like, I wonder about preparation. You know, like sometimes they're sleeping historically. Mario Cristobal teams do it, even at Oregon. So I would say maybe they go to Clemson. Maybe Clemson gets them. Maybe, Virginia Tech with James Franklin. Maybe they're ahead of schedule come November. That would probably be the one, even though I love the Mensa get. Like, I think Mensa is an upgrade. But maybe just focus the culture, maybe not being the same. But Indiana and Notre Dame to me are like shoo-ins for the playoffs.
How about you? A little flyer. How about North Carolina State? You know, they don't have Clemson, they don't have SMU, and they don't have Miami on their schedule. I mean, if it's ever going to happen for North Carolina State, this would be the year. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the schedule gods came through big for them.
Yeah.
And even bigger maybe is the fact that originally they were going to play Virginia in Brazil. And I don't know if that's because now they got to go to Virginia, but Virginia's not known for like a crazy crowd. So it's like it could have been mileage wise. It's just a little easier. CJ Bailey's a really good quarterback, man. And that's one I'm just reluctant because Doran has somehow been able to stay at NC State forever despite having a losing record in conference. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in college football. And they always slip up, like last year's Virginia Tech team, who was terrible, hence they fired Brent Pry and hired James Franklin. They lost at home to that team. And I get what everyone's saying, though, because I feel like that's become a trendy play. You look at the roster, they really loaded up defensively, right? But got a bunch of players in the portal on defense that I think could be difference makers. They did lose some offensive weapons, though. Hollywood Smothers are starting running backs at Texas. Noah Rogers, their starting receiver, is at Alabama, and their other starting receiver went somewhere else. So they did lose some weapons, but I can see because the schedule is by far, to me, out of the Power 5 conferences, I think it might even be easier than Texas Tech's. So we know Notre Dame's is nice because, but some of that is bad luck. But as far as conference schedule, dealing out a conference schedule, I think it's probably the easiest. So I can see the point, but Wake Forest has won the ACC twice. NC State has never been like. There's something about that school now, but if there's ever a case, it would be this year. But they got to prove it to me because they just lose too many hiccups. They like the games you think like they got this, and somehow they lose that game. So I'm one where that's one I see the path. I see what everyone's talking about. I can't buy stock. I've been burned too many times historically. So
it's amazing. All right, so who do you got ultimately tearing down the Nets, if you will?
Yeah, I would say right now, I mean, the 12-team playoff, if it goes, the team that I'm kind of most bullish. I'll be honest. I kind of have swayed my opinion based on the 5-for-5 with Indiana getting those defensive linemen back. I think there's a decent shot they could repeat now because I'm like, oh, that D-line is going to be so nasty. But prior that news, I had Ohio State winning it all. So there's that. But here's another thing. We've never seen it. I was trying to look historically. We've never seen 4 straight Big Ten teams. Never 4 straight of anyone, especially if they're 4 different schools. There's a chance if like Penn State or Oregon or USC get to the playoffs and win that thing. But I guess I'll stick to Ohio State since I definitely did it as part of the write-up on our website. But Indiana landing those two guys, I'm kind of buying stock again in the Hoosiers, which sounds crazy because 16-0, craziest season ever. There's no way they go undefeated again, though. But at the same time, that news of getting those guys back, and that's another thing I don't think we pay attention to enough is how old they were last year. Yes, right. A lot of JMU transfers, but I think it pays to be old, and they're old again this year now.
Last team that beat them was Notre Dame 2 years ago in the playoffs.
I think Notre Dame would be like, if you had me, like, to me, to me, those three, maybe you throw Oregon in there. The problem with Notre Dame that I worry about is you saw Ohio State do this last year where they had such a weak schedule. Ohio State did. Once they got to the meat on the bone, it was almost like, oh, I worry that Notre Dame, because if Notre Dame was playing these teams, roster wise, I think Notre Dame's as good as any team in the nation. So maybe even the best if Carr takes that next step. But I just worry, like, man, they only have a couple games, especially with USC canceling on them. There's only a couple games where they're going to be, so you might not just be ready for that grind, because it's a grind now when you get into the college football playoffs. Even Miami, look, they won at A&M, then they take down Ohio State, then they take down Ole Miss. So you got to win 4 straight games. And I kind of think Notre Dame's more likely to get there than to win it right now. But we'll see.
Yeah, they got a little gauntlet. The at BYU, Navy, which I think is at the Meadowlands, and then Miami, which is going to be a monster game. Like, so that's there, and SMU's on there. If they're as good as they've been recently, it's easy. But I always tell this to people that are anti-Irish fans, like, who knew Wisconsin was going to fall off the map? Michigan State's had some halfway decent teams. North Carolina, with their run of quarterbacks, Trubisky and all the other, they've been pretty good. BYU's good. So it's not Notre Dame's fault. It's not like Notre Dame made this schedule last year and said, boy, we're going to schedule a bunch of cupcakes. It's all the others haven't held up their end of the bargain. Otherwise, that would be a really good schedule.
I completely agree. That was one where who could have foreseen a rivalry like USC's going, by the side. Yeah. And then also Wisconsin, when they scheduled that game, because they played the first, that was not a home and home, but similar. Soldier Field, the first one, Lambeau, the second one. When they've scheduled that, Wisconsin was a top 25 team. So that one made sense. Same with Michigan State. When you schedule that, Michigan State with D'Antonio had them in the playoffs. So like the rest of the ACC one, that's just random. That's the ACC's fault. They're going to give you the random schedule, and if that's what you get, that's what you get, because they have that tie-in with the ACC. But it is unfortunate, though. I do feel a little bit like bad for them in a way, because and a lot of people says, well, join a conference. I completely disagree. I think Notre Dame should stay independent forever. I think more teams should go independent personally, bring back regionality a little bit more in the sport. So, but yeah, I think it's been an unfortunate thing, but we'll see. BYU is one that I don't know that I'm like. Notre Dame's playing at BYU, so I think that's incredibly hard, but I don't know if I'm buying the smoke as much as people are there on BYU being. I know their offensive line is going to be nasty, but I just feel like there's a lot of close games last year. Sometimes the flip side of that coin, the next year you lose some of those close games. So we'll see if BYU can hold up. I do think Miami and SMU will be really good games. So there's that in their favor. Wisconsin's win total is actually, I think, like, surprisingly, I think it's like 7.5 right now, or 7, something right around there.
It's not too bad.
Well, that's one where they're much higher on the Vegas is much higher on the Badgers than I am. So maybe the joke's on me here, and the Badgers are going to be a decent team this year.
Yeah. Colby, where can folks find you?
The College Football Experience podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, youtube.com/The College Experience. We're previewing right now. We're in the middle of doing 138 previews for every single team. We're on number 104 right now. So
wow,
an hour on every single team in the land. So come, and we do college hoops and college baseball and everything, even the Frozen Four. So check us out, youtube.com/The College Experience, sportsgamblingpodcast.com.
Colby, great job as always, man. Do appreciate it, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Anytime, man. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Colby. There you go. Colby Dant, the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, an hour on every team. I told you, man, no one knows college football like Colby. all college sports. He's terrific to talk to, good guy. Throws out some picks, gambles. So an hour preview. I like to hear the hour preview on my UTEP minors. He's come up with an hour's worth of material on that. Yeah, God bless him. So there you go, Kobe Dan. Do appreciate that. So the plays that he pointed out, and we'll have him on again before the college football season, hopefully anyway. Likes the under in the USC Trojans, which I like that as well. Likes over in Liberty and over in Marshall. So not bad from Colby Dan, good guy. All right, a couple things here before we close up shop. The NFL stuff we got to. How about some winners for tonight, Scott? So yesterday we went 1-1-1. Great example of why you buy the hook. And when it comes to NBA and WNBA, I will buy the hook when it bumps it from a loss to a tie. I don't generally buy the hook if it bumps the bet from a tie to a win. If I end up tying, then so be it. Like case in point, last night we gave out Washington. It was plus 6.5 against the Las Vegas Aces. I said buy the hook to 7. This way, if it gets a 7-point game, at least you get the tie. That's like I won't move it off a solid number because, like I said, the worst thing is if they win by 6. All right, I'll settle with the push. No big deal. But I will turn a loss, Washington plus 6.5 into a push. That to me is worth the extra dime that you're going to pay. So we got a push out of Washington as they end up losing by 7. We hit with the Angels plus 140 last night at Texas. Told you they were live dogs. And then we put the black cloud on Toronto, and that actually hit. So they lost. Red Sox win 6-1. So we went 1-1-1, but we picked up $40. So because we got the push out of the Washington one. The Toronto was plus money, so we lost an even 100 on that, and then we picked up 140 on the Angels. So we're 25-11-1. $100 better is up $1,260 now. So we picked up $40. So what are we going to do today? I'll lay off the NFL. We have our other NFL bets. I won't calculate that. I'll keep it. Do we have anything in the WNBA tonight? Not really. We got 2 games. You know what I do like? I do like the over. Indiana's at 8.5. It's a big fat number here, but I'll go with over 185.5. Indiana and the Dallas Wings. I think that'll hit 190 points. So that'll be one, and then we'll throw through 2 baseball games at you. I'm going to continue to bet, the stanky unders. They just, shut out yesterday, 1-0 by Seattle. They just can't score. You got Cole on the hill against Bieber, who hasn't exactly pitched great, but it doesn't matter because it's the Yankee bats. And Cole has actually pitched well. So I'll grab the under 8.5 Stankies and Blue Jays. And then I'll take the Braves laying a 1.5 with Chris Sale on the hill. Fodd's pitching for Arizona. He's pretty good. Arizona's playing pretty good baseball, but Chris Sale's been terrific this year again. Only 12-7, but his ERA is 2.20. He's been terrific. So I'll lay the 1.5. I won't lay the minus 190. So Braves minus a 1.5. Stankies minus. Let me just see if that number is still 8 or 8.5 with the Yankees. Because these numbers do move, and that does make a little bit of a difference. It's still 8. All right, we'll lay that. Under 8, Yankees and Toronto Blue Jays, and then the over 185.5 in the Dallas-Indiana Fever game. So there's our 3-pack for tonight. As far as the WNBA, I was going to play a clip. There was a funny little clip, but we don't have the time. Maybe we'll play it on Monday. I was going to say tomorrow, but on Monday. Where they someone just put together a goofy little thing like they had a microphone, a camera inside the WNBA meeting, and talked about how they couldn't figure out what a woman is. So we'll do that maybe on Monday. The Jane Daniels thing is having a life of its own. I was going to mention that with Colby, but I forgot. As far as this is how it's gotten on Twitter.
Have a fucking throw, JD. You win an MVP this year. High five. Did you just try to fucking high-five me? Are you serious? I am the only 5. There are no other 5s. Fuck you. Fuck yes, Burrow. I quit.
Threw a little Joe Burrow in there. Obviously, that wasn't real. But this him taking his 5 number so seriously, it's got a life of its own on Twitter. It really does. I mean, man, he's got whatever he thought was going to happen, has not happened. He needs to hold a press conference and just say, you know what? No big deal. I was a little upset. I don't want them using my name and like this. I don't know what they're actually doing. LSU, they got so many freaking players. right? Whether it's Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase, I think they got a gazillion guys they could use. So that's really no big deal. I don't know how much they're actually using him. Lane Kiffin doesn't know if he's coming or going with this situation. But the bottom line is, he wants no one to use his number 5. And that's just, he was there 2 years, as we told you yesterday. 2 years. He didn't win a national championship like Joey B did. I don't know if he had like a brain cramp and he realized, he doesn't realize he wasn't like that successful there, that they're going to retire his uniform number. I don't know why they ever would have done that, to tell you the truth. I really don't. They had a poll. Pew Research found out 73% of Americans side with Sophie Cunningham, that men who identify themselves as women don't belong in women's sports. You know what? I would have said it would have been higher than that, to tell you the truth. I really thought it would be higher than that. And then the last one, survey of a wealth management platform called Betterment found that 26% of young adults treat sports betting as a deliberate part of a long-term financial strategy. And then more than half of Gen Zers also rerouted money from their investments to sports betting last year, compared to only 24% of all Americans. Man, you dudes, you need to go to the website, oppositepicks.com. Nobody beats the boys in Vegas. Simple as that. So, but okay, you think you can? Knock yourself out. We do, but we're different. I will leave you with this. I wondered about this. I really did. I heard the story in Kansas where they're requiring all students in grammar schools to put and lock up their phones. So I was like, well, how are they going to keep track of all that, right? But here's how they're doing it.
Let's go. Next one up, please. Por favor, quien sigue. Get yourself in line after you deposit your phone.
There's like a little machine there that they grab the phone and they just, much like a mailbox, if you got, a P.O. box, which I do. Then they get a card, and I guess at the end of the day, they hand in the card, and okay. Now, how many of these dopes are keeping that card? That's what, that would be my concern. How many guys just lose the card? Someone steals their card. They put it on a table, lunch table. They forget to grab it. Someone else takes it and gets their phone. And there's got to be a better way. I'm all for it, but how about just no? You can't come to school with a phone. Simple as that. Just as simple as that. So they spent $150,000 on those new cell phone lockers. Pretty cool. Pretty, like I said, I was wondering how they were going to pull that off, and that's how they did it. So there you go. And by the way, we didn't get to this either, but the Buffalo Bill, remember the Buffalo Bills Stadium? We talked about and joked about how there are all these bad seats and everything, and the Jumbotron is so small. So the firm that designed it came back and said, no, we didn't screw that up. That was part of the plan. These obstructed view seats was part of our plan. And I'm thinking to myself, what? You spent $2 billion on a new stadium in which you designed seats to have obstructed views. You did that on purpose? They're thinking, they're defending like, no, we didn't screw up. That was our plan. What kind of firm would design a stadium that has obstructed views? It's a football stadium. It's not even like a basketball, or rather a baseball stadium where you got the sight lines and everything else, and there are some angles that maybe you can't quite see. Football stadium is just it's an oval. I mean, you got to go out of your way to have obstructed views at a football stadium, and that's apparently what this firm did. This firm, no doubt, made hundreds of thousands of dollars designing this stadium, and then the nitwits in Buffalo approved it. Like, were they not told that there would be thousands of obstructed view seats, and they said, "Who cares? Go ahead, build it anyway." I mean, just how stupid is that, right? You're being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do whatever you want. Just design us a stadium. You got a $2 million, budget. Knock yourself out. Just do me one favor. What's that? Just make the Jumbotron big enough so everybody can see it. And just make sure there aren't any poles in people's way. And, oh, by the way, we need railing, especially in the upper deck. And oh, by the way, we need some bathrooms, on every floor, because we got 4 floors. So let's make sure we got bathrooms on every floor, which I think you do. There's railings on every walkway, which I think you would do. Jumbotron big enough, for everyone to see, which I think you would do. That's it. Other than that, do whatever the hell you want. And they couldn't even get that right. They screwed up the absolute basics. And they screwed up on purpose. Oh, brother. All right, our plays are in. The weekend is coming up. We got football tonight. We got football Saturday as well. We got baseball over the weekend. We got the golf that we'll touch on Monday. So should be a lot of fun. Hopefully your weekend goes well. Be safe. I'm on the Sports Grid tomorrow, 1 to 5 p.m. if you guys want to tune in. Otherwise, go to the website, fanstreamsports.com. Listen to all of the other shows in case you missed some of those, fanstreamsports.com. On the Twitter feed here, one last check. Michael says WNBA sucks. That's okay. Goes without saying. Timmy is going to be at the Red Sox game tonight. Considering Red Sox team total over. I got to see them. I got another couple of games before I would bet any overs with them because their bats were ice cold up in Toronto, except for that grand slam. So I wouldn't necessarily bet that. And then Mark had mentioned about the Field of Dreams game. Why not White Sox and Reds? I said that, but they've had so many Field of Dream games, Mark, that I think they just don't want to do that over and over and over again. So they're just opening it up to everybody. If they only had like one, that would make the most sense. But they've had so many now, they just want to kind of open up to the rest of MLB. So anyway, good job by all the folks. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and then over the weekend as well. And then we'll be back Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on fanstreamsports.com. We'll talk to you then.